President Trump and Joe Biden are spending millions of dollars on campaign ads to court the Latino voters. Both candidates understand that there is no pathway to victory without the Hispanic vote. So what are the most important issues for Hispanics as they decide who they will cast their ballot for this fall? To help us answer this question, we have joining us Dr. Laura Murillo, President and CEO of the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Elizabeth Flomba with JOLT, and Magdalena Mayri, Director of Latino History and Culture at the National Museum of American History Smithsonian Institution. I'm Deborah Duncan, host of KHOU's Great Day Houston, and these are Cultural Conversations. Welcome to Cultural Conversations. This topic centers around politics and the election, which is important to everybody, but this time around carries a lot more weight in our Hispanic community. Magdalena, I'm going to start with you. You know something's going on when in several markets you have lots of campaign ads that are in Spanish, but also for many, many years, the Hispanic community felt disenfranchised. Things have changed. There's a shift in power right now among voters.
That is exactly correct. The Latino voter is probably the one that's going to define the election, according to some news outlets. Historically, as you mentioned, this has not been the case. It's been a minority population with little access to power and little mobilizing, aside from the movements that we know about historically, like the Chicano movement and other ones.
I was talking to Luis Miranda, and he said that one of the things that he would do is talk to politicians and educate them on the Hispanic community. And he was surprised at how they thought it was just kind of one big block and idea. And he had to really break it down and say, we don't all think the same because we're all different. We come from different religions, different cultures, different experiences. We don't all think the same. And that's one of those things that oftentimes what happens with minority groups is that we're kind of put into one lump sum.
No, we are absolutely not the same. And you have Republicans, Democrats, Independents. And the truth is that it's a very dynamic community. And if you are from Miami, you are likely Cuban. If you're from Texas, you're likely Mexican. And so every state has their majority, minority, if you will. And it's important as politicians are looking at the landscape is that they have people on their team, Deborah, who represent diversity.
A record 32 million Hispanic voters are projected to be eligible to vote in November's election. That's up from 27.3 million in 2016. This election will also mark the first time that Hispanics will surpass Black voters as the largest racial and ethnic minority group in the electorate by accounting for a little over 13% of the eligible voters. In 2018, two-thirds of all Latino eligible voters came from just 5 states. California with 7.9 million, Texas at 5.6 million, Florida with 3.1 million, New York at 2 million, and Arizona rounded out the top 5 with 1.2 million. I just heard somebody the other day say, well, you know, among Hispanics, probably the number one issue is illegal immigration. And I thought, well, it might be important to some, but a lot of people who are Hispanic are not here illegally. And I think that's another thing. There's a stereotype that comes in there, right? That you're going to think one way or everybody is in one group again. And so when it comes down to what Hispanics, if you have to divide it out, are interested in terms of seeing change, it's the same thing that everyone's interested in. And it's about humanness, right? It's about healthcare, affordable healthcare. Can I have a job, right? The same things that everybody's thinking about.
Absolutely. You're completely right, Deborah. Especially here in the state of Texas, we are so concerned with climate change, healthcare. While yes, immigration is such an important topic, here in Texas, we are the center for energy. A lot of our Hispanic and Latinx community live in these communities that are producing not clean energy, and they're directly affected by that. And there's a lot of questions surrounding that. If you can't guarantee clean water, clean air, our children are so much more at risk for diseases and illnesses that are factors of our environment. Asthma rates among the young Latinx community are staggering. And these are topics that our community is genuinely concerned about.
Magdalena, casting a vote is one thing, but actually being on the ballot is another. We have seen more Hispanics running for office. How important is it for younger generations to see themselves not only being able to vote for somebody, but in that seat of power?
Absolutely. I think that is absolutely critical, Deborah. And I think it's critical that we teach that part of our education system incorporates the stories of achievement by Latinas, by Latinos, and look at them as true role models. We know of the people in Congress, we hear their names all the time, but we have Sonia Sotomayor in the Supreme Court. That's really groundbreaking. And it's allowing many young Latinas to look up and see that the Supreme Court is a place where they belong.
Dr. Medillo, we've seen over and over and over again all the commercials. We've heard them on radio. We've seen them on TV. And, fill out the census, please. We need to know who's here, right? And not for nefarious reasons, but we need to know who needs representation.
Yes, and so we must be counted. And that includes everyone in your household, regardless of whether or not they were born in this country. If they are in your household, they are to be counted. Students who are in university dorms, they are to be counted. Why? Because there is money at the federal level that will be distributed based on the number of people per state. And so let's get our fair share of that funding for schools, for roads, for hospitals, for representation.
20 years ago, I met Representative Sylvia Garcia, and we were talking about the immigration issue because it was a protest in the streets here in Houston at the time. And she said, we have to, as politicians, handle this gracefully because we're talking about families, right? So how do we get that path to citizenship at some point? But she said the point that every politician needs to understand is that these kids will be watching. And those kids, most of them, were born in the United States. So they are here legally. They are American citizens, and they will grow up one day to vote. That day is now here.
That is correct. And this is a generation that we see mobilizing, activating, volunteer in record numbers in either party that's up for the election this year. And it's truly because they want access, right? They want access to the power. They are better educated, perhaps, than their parents. They are part of the society, and they are really are good citizens.
Ladies, thank you very much. It'll be interesting to see what happens there, but the work always continues. It's one of those things that I think we never are going to resolve or solve. We have to be ever vigilant. And like you said earlier, respect each other, appreciate each other.